but really, really delegitimizing the election and also delegitimizing the institutions that make competitive enterprise important. A lot of people have done with INEC. They have moved to the judiciary. Now it is about the judiciary is a scam, it is corrupt, is no longer, that's for those who the judgments don't favor. Those the judgments favor say is the last hope of the common man. But there's a difference between criticism and attack. An attack is meant to actually bring those institutions into opprobrium, into a place where a lot of people do not have confidence in INEC, do not have confidence in the judiciary. And most of the people who do this do it not out of patriotism, not out of the need for improvements, but is a veiled attack on democracy in my view. And it's important, therefore, that for those of us who invest in confidence building for these institutions, because democracy cannot be compared in any way to any form of dictatorship. The fact that this meeting can hold is because we have a democracy. If it was military rule, we will be called disgruntled elements, we'll be called all kinds of names. And then people say, oh, what you guys do is that you are supporting INEC, you are supporting these institutions. And I say, yes. If I don't support these institutions, what will you do? In 1999, and there are a few of you who understand this very well, before 1999, many of us were opposed to the transition program of the Ibrahim Babangida transition program. We came out very vociferously against it. But as soon as the outcome of what we condemned came out, we held on to it. We then started talking about on June 12th, we stand. But flip it and see that before that time, we were all not interested. We said that transition program will lead to nowhere. And even those who participated in it, we made them look like outcasts. At the end of the day, that election held, the transition happened, and then those who participated in the transition, we were treating them like lepers. As soon as democracy came, the partners said, look, you must engage. So the people who participated in that transition are the people who became members of the National Assembly. And we are forced to go and engage with people from whom we had criticized that their participation in the transition program was wrong. And it has followed, that trend has continued. When we went to the national conference in 2014, people came and said, don't participate in Jonathan's transition program, that it will not bring out anything. Before you know it, the Jonathan National Conference. Before you know it, the Jonathan National Conference became the plank on which everybody was now saying the outcome of that conference must be implemented. But before then, what was the narrative? The narrative for those of us in the civic space was that we should not participate. And we did participate, and we brought those outcomes that people are now. So many times, engagement is important. Engagement with institutions with the purpose of ensuring that those institutions are reformed. And it must be a principled engagement. Principled engagement. So my call is that the 2023 election had its challenges, but the positives for those elections outweigh the challenges in every material particular. And therefore, those institutions that are in the business of strengthening our democracy needs to be encouraged by people who mean well for the country. The current attack on the judiciary, the excoriation of INEC, in my view, does not portend well for the consolidation of democracy. And we must do all that is necessary to make sure that if there are challenges, we deal with those challenges with the aim of improving, not to decimate and destroy confidence in those institutions. There is no other place to go to. If people don't know that judiciary is a part of the electoral process, it is not an invention outside of the electoral process. By the time you have finished all that you have done, the judiciary will have to sit back and say, did you follow the Constitution? Did you follow the Electoral Act? Did you follow the INEC guidelines? If you did not follow, it is not an emotional issue. It is not whether you like it or you don't like it. They will have to make a call. And when they make that call, if you don't like it, there is a right, in some instances, there is a right for appeal. But the reform process is important now because that's where we are. In Liberia, they have a situation in which before the election is concluded, there is an adjudication. People can sit back and look at the process before you even announce the result. So that this whole challenge of, the challenge that we face with, long adjudications will no longer have to be. And I think that that is what is important. Oftentimes, the court of public opinion thrives on emotion and ignorance. If I ask you now whether you have read that judgment of the Court of Appeal and the reasons it adduced for particular cases, because every case has its different understanding, and the law is wide. There are things that they see as judges. I am not holding forth for them, but I'm saying that it is important that before you comment, do not comment based on what you hear somebody say. It is important that you yourself avail yourself of the opportunity of seeing, because the judgments are written in English language. They are not written in Latin. If they are not written in Latin, you can read and interpret by yourself. There are particular cases like what you are talking about now. If you go and read why the Court of Appeal held that position, you may be shocked that certain things were not done properly by the people who are raising those issues in the Court of Public Opinion. In the Court of Public Opinion. Let me give you an instance. Now the presidential issue was gone. Before the presidential election, some people were already taking position that what the outcome of the court will be. We saw lawyers who were not practicing law inside the court, they were practicing it on television. Their law was practiced on television. Even what lay people like us understood clearly about the elections through long period of engagement and participation with this process, those lawyers did not know. Until the presidential court had a master class on electoral jurisprudence for all of us for 12 hours and taught us simple issues about procedure in elections. Evidence. Did you have party agents? Are your party agents part of your witnesses? No. The political parties did not bring party agents to court. Who were the people at the polling unit, at the granular level. But they were posing everywhere and making anybody who says anything to the contrary look like you were the bad guy. The courts came and exposed those things. My sense always is that I do not think that it is right to castigate a judgment that you have not read based on the interpretation of partisans. Now, when I mean partisans, in a court case, lawyers are either for or against. So when you listen to a lawyer, 1,000 of them have different opinion on what and when in the Constitution or in the Electoral Act. 1,000 of them have different opinions. So when you are talking to this lawyer, the lawyer will tell you that according to the law. But the judge is the one who has a wider view of all the arguments. My sense is that we should respect them. And even if we don't respect them and castigate, a particular judgment, we should not paint a black tar on the whole institution, because this same institution, like you were referring to, also we are the ones who gave judgment in Bauchi, who gave the judgment in Delta, who gave judgment in Imo against the ruling party, and such other episodic interventions that they have done that gives hope. So if we take those ones side by side and then put the places where we probably don't understand or where even they erred, it is not enough to excoriate completely the whole institution. And that is the same thing that is being done, that was being done with INEC. Oh, the election was this. Oh, the election. And you ask people, this electoral process, this thing is a process. It is not an event. Which particular part of this process do you have problems with? Of course, it was the upload of the result on the what is it called, on the IREF. Now, that particular action was just a very little part of the whole process. The whole authentication and voting results at the polling unit, all of those things, according to the data for the 2023 election, went well. We have held on to one activity out of almost more than 100 activities that were done through the 2023 election, and on the basis of that, we want to say the election was. There is just that thing about wanting to pull down, destroy those institutions, and then create the argument for an alternative that is dangerous. That alternative that people, oh, you know, this democracy is no longer working for us, we can go back to military. The people who made that argument were not expelled from the university. They were not detained. They didn't lose their lives for this democracy. There are even those who made the argument, who were in the fight for even democracy, who were merchants in the struggle for democracy. They were business people. They used that period was a period of business for them. So those of us who sacrificed our youth, who lost our studentship, had to go to court, the court had to recall us, and all of those issues will not sit pretty and watch people do the kind of things they are doing right now with these institutions. And it is only natural that we feel that way. Does that mean that everything went well? Certainly no. But if there is a difference between criticism and malicious slander, where people just want to destroy a process, the changes that we look for, we can begin to talk about how we ensure that we do proper electronic voting. And then it has to be instrumental, because there is no electronic voting anywhere that is complete. It is still bimodal. It is the manual going side by side with electronic. There is no country where you have complete electronic management of electoral process. It is still manual, and so we can increase more and more the technology component of our elections. We can expand the space by independent candidacy. We can also look at diaspora voting where it is possible. At least let us take it away from the law, in a way that guarantees that our citizens who live outside the country can cast their votes. But when you also take into cognizance that you have about 5 million Nigerians in Sudan and many undocumented people all over the world, from where are you going to? So the mechanics of it is what we are discussing. It is the mechanics of the diaspora voting that we are dealing with. You know, we have to make it clear that we are all about expanding the democratic space, improving the capacity of the electoral management body to also deal with its own issues internally. The sabotage, the subterfuge internally by some INEC staff who hawk solutions to politicians that they can help them do this and that, needs to be exposed and punished. And incidentally, INEC is in the forefront of doing that. It has its own staff being tried in law courts as we speak today. Okay? There is no institution that has come under the kind of ferocious attack like that institution, INEC. 214 attacks before the 2023 election on its facilities. Okay, it means that we have to really respect those institutions and work to see how we consolidate this democracy.
Thank you.